All right, folks, welcome in, welcome in. Got a big show for you guys today. I know today's a certain day right here in America, election day. College football playoff rankings come out tonight. Doesn't matter. We still have week 11 to talk about. We still have week 12 to talk about too. A lot of fun games this weekend that I will begin to preview today. We'll do some of them Thursday. Debated on having a show today because of the election, but just screw it. We're gonna do it. I know a lot of folks are probably sick and tired of it, but hey, it's a nice little distraction here. With the election stuff going on. Hopefully, you guys went out to go vote today, either early in the past couple weeks or going in person today. Having a go authority, you still have time to get in and have your voice heard. But yes, we are on YouTube. Just to confirm, I believe we are live. If I check on my phone here, I'm going to also hear and listen to if we are live as well, just to confirm that you can hear me. So if you hear the feedback of the audio from the podcast, just making sure if you're live, this makes sense. If you're listening to this on the Spotify version, which I am recording both at the same time, this is kind of irrelevant. So just double check here if your audio is working. If not, then we have problems. Okay, so we are live. Or just that proves that our audio works. Everything already good. So if you are new here, this is the For Verticals podcast. I'm Josh. I'm the host here. I am the wear a lot of hats here. I'm the CCO, I'm the CEO, I'm an editor, I'm the technology person, I'm my own HR person. So I literally wear all the hats for the YouTube channel. And this is the first time us doing this officially live. We did do it live last week, but for some reason, I didn't realize audio wasn't working and the microphone setup was a bit weird. So we ironed that stuff out. If you were on the channel earlier, if you noticed I was live earlier, that was me testing that. So I'll probably keep on doing that. As we continue to go forward here with us doing this on YouTube finally. But welcome in. If you're new here, we talk about college football, talk about Star Wars news, Marvel news, no politics here, no news here, no that type of stuff. We talk about college football, we talk about Marvel, talk about Star Wars. We also, as a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, as I shamefully had to watch that game last night. Good game, by the way. I'll talk about it towards the end. But that's the show. So if you're a fan of any of that stuff, you come to the right place. And be sure to follow on the YouTube channel. Subscribe, by the way. We're using it now. So make sure you subscribe over there. Nothing happens. Hit the microphone there, but nothing happens. I don't come to your house. I don't force you to sign up for anything. I don't call your phone. I don't even send you emails. I don't FaceTime you or anything. It's completely free. Same with the Spotify account. That was mainly been our primary source of getting the show out there. Last week, around this time last week, I said, screw it. We're doing YouTube as well because why not? We have the channel. It's been around for a while. And I figured, why not just have both, Spotify and YouTube? So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to both the podcast feed and the YouTube channel. Again, nothing happens. It's completely free. We're new here. So if anything happens, if the audio goes out, that's kind of on me. We're still new to this, but yeah, welcome into the show. It's going to be a fun one. I have a lot of thoughts on this weekend's games for sure. It's just a lot. I mean, it's a lot of things to say here, but hopefully you guys are here to stay. If you're new here, again, hopefully you guys hopefully you guys subscribe and like the videos and whatnot, because we do have videos on here. It's just they're older stuff. Okay, all that stuff out of the way. By the way, Twitter at @4Ferts_pod. If you guys have been here for a while, you know the drill on that. Again, be sure to subscribe over there, or well, not subscribe, follow over there, as I've been told. Me continuing to say that makes you guys motivated to subscribe and follow and whatnot. So please be sure to do that, because I have a lot of good interactions with you guys over there on Twitter as well. Week 10 reactions: Ohio State beats Penn State on the road. If you listen to the previews I did for last Saturday's games. Actually, a week ago from today, I picked Penn State to win this game. I was wrong on that. Should have known better, but I will get to Penn State here in a little bit. We talk about the winners first here, like a lot of shows. We talk about the winners first. Big props to Ohio State. This was a big deal for them. It's a resume building game. It's a big rivalry game. It's sort of a game that I think for both teams here, and I said this last week, and I think a lot of folks have also echoed this as I move my fan here to make sure I get cool breeze going here. I mentioned this last week a little bit, that whoever lost this game, you've had, articles, videos published, well, not videos posted, but mainly articles and new news articles being published back in the spring about the loser of this game, either Ryan Day or James Franklin. All you needed to do was add in, the stats and figures of the game. That's all you needed to do, because all these articles and toxicity building up, bubbling up, it's been there since the spring. It's all been there. Those stories now have just been published now, and unfortunately, a lot of them or all of them are on James Franklin. But for Ryan Day, if he lost his game, same thing. You'll be hearing people saying the same stuff about Ohio State and Ryan Day, and oh boy, Ryan Day's stupid, he's an idiot, and he can't do this, he can't do that. Yes, he can do it. He did it last week. He's been to the playoff. Heck, he was a missed field goal away from playing TCU, and I don't know if, I guess they probably win that game. I don't want to sound like I have like time stone from Doctor Strange. I can predict this stuff. Like I can see the future, but probably ends up winning a national title. And what would that have been? 2022. But that's irrelevant now. That's in the past. He won this game. Yes, it looked ugly. Will Howard did not look good again. He threw a pick six. Very sloppy on offense. But defense was the difference in this game. To me, at least from the Ohio State perspective. I mean, JTT, Caleb Downs, Jim Knowles, by the way, deserves a lot of credit for what he did against a Penn State offense. I know a lot of folks are shitting on right now. I still have a lot of faith in what Andy Kolnicki can do up there. He's a new OC, by the way, if you didn't know. Came over from Kansas last year. And if you've been watching Kansas football like I have, shamefully, at least towards the beginning of the year, I know that UNLV game, you guys know how different that offense is from what it was last year. Now you see Kolnicki at Penn State, but give a lot of props to Jim Knowles here. I don't think a lot of folks are giving him a lot of props. I mean, from what he was able to do, the goal line stops, I know half of that is, it's a glass half full, glass half empty. Half of it's Jim Knowles, and the other half is Penn State's own inflicted problems. But give credit where credit is due here. Like Jim Knowles called up a really good game. He stifled Penn State's offense. They did what he needed to do, and probably the best defensive performance all year against teams in the P4, not like Central Michigan or, no disrespect to Akron, but best performance defensively against a Power 4 team of this type of caliber so far. Very similar too, by the way, to the game last year. A lot of similarities, if you will. But again, a lot of folks he a lot of criticism of Ryan Day. He's lucky this time, and I don't believe a lot of folks will remember this game because the rest of Ohio State's schedule is what it is, right? You have Indiana, that's another hurdle. Michigan may as well be it's basically a speed bump now. They're not that relevant anymore. It looks more and more likely that they will probably face Ohio State, Ohio State will face Oregon again, more than likely. I don't know if a lot of folks will remember this game because I think a lot of folks will just see this as okay, Ohio State beating Penn State again, haha. It's been going on for over a decade now. This is kind of an important game for them because, again, you saw that Nebraska game last week, and yes, I'm sure if you're an Ohio State fan, if you're in, I don't know, like Cincinnati, Ohio, or, I don't know, Cleveland or anywhere, you probably don't feel good about it still, or you still don't think a lot of your problems have been solved. Yes, you're a team of flaws, but you winning this game is a big deal for you because it gives you confidence that, yes, we can win these games, you have the ability to win these games, you have the ability to play at a certain level when we're able to. Like, when all these things come together, it can still happen. Like that Oregon game, for example. A lot of things didn't happen. You guys got outcoached by a really good team and a really good coaching staff. You flipped the script this week against another high-quality opponent team, and you've built yourself some insurance now, and you play Indiana. Should be a matchup of an undefeated team versus one-loss team. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Then there's Michigan. Then there's Indianapolis. Then there's the playoff. So, huge win for Ohio State. Huge win for Ryan Day to at least cool the temperature down a little bit and to lessen the toxicity there. Can't say that for Penn State. The toxicity level has been turned up to 100. The temperature is out of control over there. The rhetoric over there has been pretty bad. Now, it sounds like to me I'm using a very strong word here to describe Penn State. It's kind of accurate. It's not good. It doesn't feel good. Look, I'm not a Penn State fan, okay? I'm not from, like, Reading, Pennsylvania. I'm not from, like, Jim Ford, Pennsylvania. I'm not from there. I don't have much ties over there. I'm just an outside viewer of Penn State. I think their fan base is good. They cheer like heck every single year. They show up to all the big games. The whiteout's amazing. I've always wanted to go up there and witness it. I've heard it's pretty good from people like Josh Payton and whatnot who've been up there and have the ability to go up there. So again, I'm not a fan. So I'm looking at this very generically. And I'm generically just saying there's a lot of toxicity going around the Penn State program right now. And the rhetoric has been turned up pretty high. The temperature there is pretty warm. In terms of the heat towards James Franklin. And look, nothing's going to happen. Nothing will happen to James Franklin. Like, I don't know what a lot of these Penn State people were expecting in terms of them, because they lost the game. Okay, that's old news. Like, the offense wasn't good enough in the red zone. You stifled a pretty decent defensive performance again 2 years in a row. I don't know what folks were expecting about the ramifications of this game on James Franklin if he lost it. Like, what, a trap doors and automatically or magically appear in his office? He's going to fall through it into the gates of hell. Like, that's not going to happen. He's not going anywhere. He's not going to get fired. They're still in a good position to make the playoff because they'll probably be a one-loss, hopefully not a two-loss team. That's where it gets kind of weird because of Penn State's resume. And don't worry, like I mentioned earlier, we'll talk about the playoff rankings and because they're debuting tonight and have some thoughts on that. But nothing's going to happen to James Franklin. He's not going anywhere. He's not getting fired. Like I just mentioned, like there's no problem with James Franklin as a coach. Like you look at his history, Josh Pitts brought it up on this show multiple times. I agree with him. He is the most properly rated coach in America. He's not Nick Saban. He's not Kirby Smart, nor is he, I don't know, Mel Tucker in recent years, past Big Ten coaches. He's not, all due respect to Pat Narduzzi. I guess if you want to go locally, he's not Pat Narduzzi. He's kind of somewhere in the middle, right? He's a good coach. He's not an elite coach. He's not a shitty coach. Like he's not a Brian Harsin. He's not, I don't know, like a Zach Arnett. He's not a Sharon Moore. Like I think a lot of folks can agree with me on that. But I think a lot of folks can also agree he is not a Kirby Smart. He's not Ryan Day. He is not Urban Meyer. He's not Nick Saban. He's not Kalen DeBoer. He's not any of that type of stuff. That's just not who he is. And I think on me, and I will admit this, I don't like being out, or at least I don't like to admit when I'm wrong, but I will admit when I'm wrong here. I think what happened to me last week, especially with, predicting this game, I got caught into the whole wish fulfillment idea. And if you don't know what that means, that's just wishing something to existence, right? Marvel fans, if you're a fan of the Marvel movies, the MCU stuff, you've fallen victim to that lately. This whole wish fulfillment, thinking something's going to happen, but it may not happen. Like you're wishing something into existence. That to me is a lot of folks who are defending James Franklin, who got cut on that last week. Not a whole lot of people. Some folks rightfully chose Ohio State or picked Ohio State to win the game, and they did, and I give them credit for it. And I will only be honest with you, I fell into that wish fulfillment trap. I did. I expected them to take advantage of the moment. It was at home for Penn State. I felt like the offense was getting better under Andy Kolnicki. Still can, but unfortunately, what we're seeing is as we're now going into November. We're in November and heading towards like December and January. There's not much you can change. There's not much you can fix. And that's a word too that like Josh Page brought up. Like, what does fix even mean? Or cleaning up, what does that mean? So there's nothing you can do about that. It just kind of is what it is right now. The offense, it's going to look good against the teams that should look good. But when they're going against, I'm talking about Penn State here, when Penn State plays teams that are at their same level or just a little bit above them, it's a bit of a coin flip. And I don't take much pride in saying that, but it just is what it is right now. And they'll be in the playoff. I guess they may get a home playoff game, but we'll see. But they still have the rest of the season, man. Like, if I look up Penn State's schedule here, which I should have had pulled up, because I should have had this remembered, or have this remembered by memory. They play Washington at home. That's actually the whiteout game, even though they kind of had an unofficial one this weekend. At Purdue, Minnesota, it's on the road, and then Maryland. Realistically, you should go undefeated in that. There's also a path for Penn State to where you could lose a game. So hopefully they don't check out. Hopefully they're still somewhat invested. I think they will be. I don't know James Franklin personally. He's not a friend of the program. He's not coming on later, and we're doing a special sit-down talk virtually. I mean, he's not literally going to come to my apartment. But My opinions on James Franklin has not changed. My opinions on Penn State has not changed at all. They're still a good team. They're not an elite team. I never said they were an elite team. They're a good team. And Ohio State's still an elite team. Them Oregon, at this point, have separated themselves. I know Indiana will have an argument for that. We'll see where they're at in the playoff rankings, or at least how they – I'm not going to – actually, I'll save that for the playoff segment. But just in general, my opinions on James Franklin have not changed. Yes, he lost again. Will it always be like that? Probably not. I know a lot of folks cringe at that. A lot of folks don't believe that. Trust me. At some point, he will win a big game. He's done it before. I mean, he's won Rose Bowls. He's won near 6 bowl games. Like, I don't know, outside of a national championship, like what else on his resume has told you, leads you to believe he can't win big games? He has won big games. Yeah, sure, he hasn't beaten Ohio State. He hasn't beaten Michigan enough. But I don't know what to say. I mean, my opinion on him has not changed. He lost the game. Cool. You'll probably be in the playoff and you'll have another chance to prove yourself. But my thoughts on him have not changed. He's still a good coach, not an elite coach. He's not an elite coach, nor is he a crappy coach. But just in general, I know this is going to sound controversial, but I just wish some of these people, especially in the news, the sports media sphere, would just calm down a little bit and like tone down the rhetoric a little bit about James Franklin. Like, folks who are calling for him to get fired are utterly, frankly, don't know how the sport works and don't know that he's not going anywhere. Like, outside of complete scandal, like he's not, like James Franklin's not going anywhere. So I'm trying to say, like, he's completely safe. And anyone who's advocating for him to get fired, you don't know what you're talking about. You're throwing people underneath the bus. Frankly, James Franklin, mostly, you're throwing him underneath the bus. You know, he doesn't really deserve it that much. Like, he's not getting fired, okay? Anyone wishing that, anyone reporting that, anyone writing that, clearly doesn't know how the college football world works. So just that point out there, I would just wish people would just tone the rhetoric down on him a little bit, okay? Like that's all I'm asking, right? You can criticize him, that's fine, but calling for his job and saying he's an idiot, like, come on, guys, really, like, if you're gonna say that stuff, then go to his office there and say college and say it to him. I wouldn't say that. I have a lot of respect for the man. No, he got caught in an altercation with the fan base. Like, okay, whatever. Like, that's a personal thing. It's not anything to do with him being a coach. I've seen a lot of folks bring that up, and I don't frankly understand why that's an issue, but whatever. I guess we'll move on before I go on a whole tangent there. But anyway, Georgia beat Florida this weekend. Close game, like I thought it would be. They didn't cover the 16.5. I believe they were favored by, according to FanDuel, who's not sponsored, by the way. Just a site I use to look at the lines and whatnot. Nor is that me advocating for betting advice either, or giving up betting advice, or advocating you guys to bet. But this game was weird to me. Very, very weird game. Probably the weirdest game all weekend. It was all I expected, right? Said on this show last week, and I said it on Thursday too. I thought this would be a close game. A lot of folks didn't believe me. A lot of folks are clowning me probably behind the scenes or not publicly. Here we are. It was 20-20, I believe, at halftime. DJ Lagway, by the way, not out for the season. Could return, by the way. You know, what's up with that? You know, everyone's saying that he was done and, you know, buried and gone after he got injured. And here he comes. He's like the zombie come out of a grave. He's supposedly could be available against Texas when they travel to Austin this weekend. So, I don't know. I mean, that's good. He's not hurt, but man, all those folks who are saying he's out for the rest of the year, like, hold on just a minute. The full evaluations weren't out yet. But it was 20-20 at one point, man. Florida, I mean, look, I don't have like time travel powers. I'm not Doctor Strange. I can't see in the future or whatnot. I don't have the time stone or whatnot. So I can't say for certain that if DJ didn't go down, Lagway, not the other DJ, Florida State, do I believe that Florida would have won the game if Lagway didn't get hurt? I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, there's certainly a lot of different variables here. Again, we're talking about a hypothetical scenario that doesn't exist, right? Georgia won the game, and defensively they clamped down on a transfer quarterback from Ivy League schools. So no offense to those schools, but that's not the same caliber of athlete that DJ Lagway is as a former 5-star recruit. But Georgia did what they were supposed to do against a former Ivy League quarterback. So congrats, you did that. You held a Florida offense with a third-string quarterback, which is what you're supposed to do if that caliber of talent on that team. But for Georgia here, and I'll get back to Florida here in just a second. I probably should have started with Georgia, but I guess I kind of did. But again, defense, second half, good. Granted, that was aided with quarterback change. That was unforeseen. Carson Beck. And a lot of folks are throwing Carson Beck on the bus about his turnovers. And I can't deny it. It's a problem. It's becoming a trend. It's been happening starting with the Bama game, and it came reared its ugly head in the Mississippi State game, and it came back this week, and it happened in their win in Austin. It's definitely a trend. There's no doubt in my mind. It's a trend. Is it something that can get cleaned up? Whatever that means, I don't know. I would probably bet towards that's just going to be a trend with him turning the ball over, whether it be interceptions, fumbles, you name it. Which is kind of weird because I felt like, to me, at least a lot of folks back in like the spring and summer, that Carson Beck was going to be on the strengths of this team, because I felt like the defense was going to have some question marks about it, some flaws, and it has been flawed, and at least at moments, or at least like a lot of this year, though the Texas game was an example of when Georgia wants to, they can rise to that level of being a dominant defense. They haven't shown it all year, and they didn't show it really much in this game until the second half. But I mean, you have to go on the road to Ole Miss this weekend. I'm going to preview that. I will preview that game here later. But I don't know, just weird game from Georgia. I mean, you were able to pull away there, separate yourself, but it just feels like it's a win for, if I was a Georgia fan here, kind of stepping in the shoes of a Georgia fan who lives in, I don't know, like Valdosta, Georgia, Bremen, Georgia, Tallapoosa, Georgia, those areas, like in Western Georgia, Columbus, Georgia. How would I feel? Would feel weird about it, right? I mean, it's like you won the game, but it's like it didn't really look good. It only changed when the dynamics changed when Florida had to make a change of quarterback. So I don't know. I mean, you've won the game, so that matters, but you don't feel good about it. At least I wouldn't feel good about it heading into Oxford this weekend. But Florida, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you were playing as best as you could have, right? I mean, yeah, DJ was playing out of his mind. Offense is actually looking quite competent for once against an elite or a team of the caliber of Georgia. And I'll always say this, and I've been saying this, I've said it last week on the team to say this: Florida's not quitting. Even though they started off the way they did, with their big games, and with Miami and Texas A&M, they're not quitting. They've not quit. And if you're someone who is still holding on to hope to Billy Napier to keep his job or to be back next year, I may or may not be one of those who are hoping for that, because I happen to like the guy. My opinion, or at least my opinions of him, is not going to determine whether or not the administration there decides to get rid of him. But they're not quitting. I'll just tell you that. They're not quitting, and that does bode well for coaches on the hot seat. Like Neil Brown last year is a good example of this. Team didn't quit when they lost to Penn State. They continued to win, claw and fight, and they made it to a bowl game. They won 9 games last year. Is Florida going to do that? I don't know. I don't think so. But like, I don't know. This is either way here. Either team here coming out of this game just feels weird. It's like, yeah, for Florida, you've made it close and the team's not quitting, but you still have the rest of your schedule too. I mean, you get rewarded by going to Austin, Texas this weekend, then you have LSU coming in there, and luckily levels off a little bit with Florida State. That's a game you should reasonably be expected to win now, but be interesting to see what happens there with Florida this weekend. How do they respond to this? Do they take this momentum they've been riding on the past couple weeks? Do they ride into Austin with the same momentum and keep it close again? Or does the quit situation, or does the quit factor come into play here? Benching to see this Saturday. Texas A&M, South Carolina. Not much to really say here about the result. I thought would have happened. Just a crazy scene. Like, if you didn't watch this game live for some reason, if you're not a core fan like me and you turned this off when South Carolina was starting to separate themselves. Now, as a college football sicko, I watched the entire game. I watched it from beginning to end. And if you did turn it off, like the scene of the field rush. Now you may have seen this on social media, but if you were watching this live, it was absolutely incredible, man. Like I kind of wish I was there. Like just field storming. You have like the sky cam footage there from ABC, and you see Mike McGrath down there somewhere in the sea of South Carolina fans, and so is Shane Bieber down there somewhere. Those two are down there somewhere, and you can barely see them. I think you could have made out Shane Bieber, but I couldn't really see either of them, both Molly and Shane. But just an amazing scene there, just absolutely incredible. Just like some of those shots too. I mean, Josh Pate brought it up too on this show, and I agree with him. Like some of those shots, and particularly those shots of the field being covered with the fans, and everyone kind of like a whole bowl of just a sea of garnet and that's up their colors, like red and white. It's like, man, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible scene there in South Carolina, and huge win for Shane Bieber, man. Like I mentioned on some Twitter, like he has some huge wins there. I know a lot of folks were having him on the hot seat. I didn't really feel that much. I mean, I understood it, but I wasn't advocating for him to get fired. But if you think about it, he has several wins now over top 10 teams. Texas A&M this weekend, Tennessee a couple years ago, famously, and then Clemson on the road. So that's a pretty good resume for a guy that a lot of folks were considering on the hot seat. So huge win for Shane Bieber and them again. Like if you look at their schedule, I know everyone's talked about it. There's a world here where South Carolina can finish the year 9-3. I don't think a lot of folks were saying that back in April or March, but here we are. Now, certainly there's a world where they can lose some of those games. Heck, they can lose to Vanderbilt this weekend. I believe South Carolina is a short favorite there in Nashville. So, look, they can win most of these games going forward. They can lose some of them, but they have a chance to really strong. They have a chance to really finish strong here, South Carolina. Texas A&M. I mean, I think a lot of just like a lot of our folks predicted last week, I thought they would lose. Doesn't change my mind. I still feel confident in Mike Elko. I still feel confident in A&M program going forward. This season kind of is what it is. I mean, you still have Texas, and you still have the rivalry game against Texas in a couple weeks, and Saturday after Thanksgiving. So like your season's not over yet. Like just because you lose it's not a death sentence, right? For your postseason aspirations, like it's still all there for you, and you have a opportunity to shake it up a little bit and keep your hopes alive for that. So again, my thoughts on A&M, like I mentioned last week, or this time last week, win or loss. I was going to talk my opinion on Mike Elko and Texas A&M going forward. Has not changed at all. In fact, I still feel confident in them, at least the program. Now this year we'll see, and I think they'll be fine. But just going forward, confidence in the program in the coming years. Oh yeah, very much still confident that their loss this weekend didn't change any of that. In fact, they did what they were supposed to do, which is fine with me. I mean, look, if they would have won, yeah, it would have shown maturity, but I think you want to have these losses early on to not only, it's the common cliche, right? Get out of your system, but it's a good life lesson, right? You had a big win last week, it's an emotional win. You go into a tough environment. Doesn't matter how bad South Carolina is or could have been. Like that's still a tough environment to go into. I know it wasn't Cocktober anymore, but hey, it's still Williams-Brice on a Saturday night, which is one of the let me see here. Last game I'll mention here, and then I'll get some water here. I'll drink some water here. We'll move on. So the week 11 previews, got 3 games here for the previews for week 11. Then I'll move into my playoff thoughts, rankings that are coming out. I won't do a reaction to them because the last ones kind of do matter, and I'll dive into that later. And then we got Bucs Chiefs reaction, but Clemson and Louisville. Told you guys had some concerns about this game. Mentioned on the upset alert segment, had it as a code yellow. Could have. I mean, I guess yellow. Looking back at it, makes sense. I did not fully expect this. I mean, I thought Clemson guys, they're off a bye week, and they looked like this. I'm like, I'm not even a Clemson fan. I don't live in Spartanburg. I don't live in those areas near Clemson. Like I'm not even from there. Like I don't live there. I'm just a college boy analyst looking at this. And again, I brought it up last week. They're off a bye. Clemson was, and I feel confident. Sure. I mean, it's I mentioned it last week that they were going into a very tough stretch of their schedule, actually playing teams of a pulse. But it's like, man, they're off a bye week too. It's like, wow, like I know Josh Pate did a whole segment on this on Sunday about how this one game could have a massive ripple effect on the whole entire Clemson program. I'm not going to go that far with that because I think now he's not wrong, right? About if you didn't watch this segment, I'm not going to like basically retell it for you, but just the TLDR, Josh basically just mentioned, hey, Clemson fans are usually pretty reserved. They're not usually very vocal, but stuff like this that could happen may change that, and unfortunately, it could change it. Now, you're not going to see that stuff this week. This is me now talking, not me just kind of telling you what he said. I don't know because I've been looking around. I haven't seen that many like stuff come out of the Clemson program of like turmoil or controversy or whatnot. Now, does that mean, or does a loss like this potentially have ripple effects on the way Dabo Swinney does things? Yeah, sure, I totally agree with Josh on that. I think that's probably what he was hinting towards or what he was referring to in terms of like change. Like obviously Dabo's not going anywhere. Like you can't fire him again. Same with James Franklin. Like what? Like a mysterious trap door is going to come down from his office there in South Carolina and Clemson, South Carolina. He's going to go away. Like no, he's not going anywhere. Does this loss reaffirm the stance of people maybe within the program who've wanted changes there, at least in their modus operandi? Yeah, I think so. I think this game definitely ratchets up the rhetoric about Clemson, the transfer portal, and how they don't have the difference makers at the receiver position, at least ones that are to the caliber that they used to have. The same with a lot of positions there, defense, O-line, quarterback to a certain extent. Though I will say this too, like we get 12 versions of a team every single year during the regular season. Josh Bates talked about it. I think the guys on over at College Football Nerds have mentioned that too. So this could be a situation or a scenario here that this was just a bad day for Clemson, just a bad day for the team. They could show up this weekend at Lane Stadium there at Virginia Tech, and they could blow out Virginia Tech. Could. I don't feel that good about it. I'll touch on that game actually later, but it's just, yeah, I mean, I agree with Josh, but also I'm like, their goals are still there, right? A 10-2 Clemson could get in, but I don't know. I mean, that's a scenario I don't know if the playoff committee even wants to get into because right now the ACC odds, or at least the two teams in the lead here in terms of conference standings, it's Miami, shocker, then SMU, hello, Ryan Lashley and company. They beat Pitt like I thought they would. I'm not going to go over that game because that's, frankly, we got the results I thought we were going to get, and we did. So, I mean, does a third ACC team get in because I don't know, like those whole playoff scenarios I don't want to get into because those starts a whole rabbit hole. Frankly, too, we're still early about that. Gotta stop using Franklin. There's a lot of Franklins already. There's two more. But realistically, I don't really want to start talking about playoff scenarios, but does I don't know. Just in general, yes, it doesn't look good for Clemson. Hats off to I almost said Dave Dorn, wrong coach. Brom and company, Coach Brom. Once again, proving people wrong. And look, Louisville's not a bad team, right? They're not like Jeff Brom's a really good coach, good offensive line. They could also have a good stretch to their have a good ending stretch here to their season after they lost. Frankly, there's frankly again. I'm gonna avoid trying to say that a lot just 2 minutes ago, but realistically, they still have an option or a chance to finish strong. I mean, they have their losses, the free losses have been relatively close to decent teams. So it's not too crazy to think Louisville could end up being a 9-win team. Now, that's not going to get you to a very good postseason bid, but it's a nice ending there. And, coming off of an ACC championship game appearance last year, not a bad rebound for you guys up there in Louisville. But, yeah, for Clemson, just I don't know. I mean, it's not good right now. Yeah, sure, it doesn't seem toxic. I mean, I don't have access to the message board, so maybe there's a disconnect there, or at least I don't have access to that. So I don't know. It's definitely pretty weird up there right now. Very, very, very strange times there in Clemson, South Carolina. Wonder how Tyler from Spartanburg is feeling right now. If you know, you know. What I am going to do, if you're new here, I usually take little mini drink breaks here, just make sure the voice stays fresh, if you will. I'm going for 30 minutes here, so it's not too bad, but just to be safe, I'm going to get a quick drink of water. Podcast feed's not going out. The stream's not, the audio should be fine still, I would assume. At least I hope. Then we'll be back and we'll talk about week 12 predictions. A lot of 3 big games that we'll go over. So, gonna get some water here. Podcast feed's not going out. Video live streams not going out. Perfectly safe here. As we merrily roll along, reference to Looney Tunes specifically, I believe that's Merry Melodies shorts of the Warner Brothers cartoons back in the day. The song they used for the intro, the famous intro of the Warner Brothers Shield and whatnot. Again, a little reminder here, if you're new here to the YouTube channel or to Spotify, however you're listening to this. First of all, welcome. Be sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, podcast feed. Nothing happens again, like I mentioned earlier. I don't show up to your house. I don't force you to sign anything. I don't call you. I don't send you text messages. I don't request FaceTime or whatever. It's completely free. Keeps the show mostly free, for the most part. And we talk college football. We talk Marvel. Talk Star Wars stuff. Talk Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a Bucs fan. Towards the end of the show, most shows usually, if they're a topic, especially during the season. But yeah, I mean, if you're here, welcome. We do 2 shows a week. Sometimes during the summer, we'll do 3. I know we did 3 this past summer. I don't know if we'll do that for the spring and summer, if we'll amp up the shows or whatnot. But generally, we will continue to do, at the very bare minimum, 2 shows a week, maybe 3. 3 shows like this, the main show. I don't have other splinter or spinoff shows or whatnot. At least at the moment. But for the most part, we're keeping this mostly to the show only exclusively. So, week 11 predictions and previews. You're very excited. This is a big week. Very big week for the SEC. Once again, the spotlight. Last week was Big Ten. This week is the SEC's turn. And we have 2 big games in the conference. First one's pretty obvious. LSU, Bama, 8 o'clock on ABC, I believe. Eastern, I believe. ABC. Very excited about this game. First time in a while we've had a game in LSU versus Bama that has a lot of oomph to it, if I guess. Now, it was like this last year, but the last couple of years, but with the expanded playoff, I would admit this does have a lot of value on it. I mean, it would have a lot of value, tons of value on it anyway if it wasn't the case, but still, this is a game I'm very excited about. It's an historic rivalry. Has it lost its luster? Has it taken a back seat to Bama versus Georgia, at least as the headliner in the SEC? Sure, it has, but this is still like classic LSU versus Bama, right? Close game, fun game. Tiger Stadium at night. Never been there before in my life. I would love to go there. Not as a fan of the opposing team, just a generic fan. Don't want the folks in Louisiana to hate me, but look, I mean, I've always wanted to go there. It's a fun environment. I've never been to New Orleans before, believe it or not. Never been to a lot of places, by the way. But yeah, it should be a fun environment down there. Night game. Josh P will be there. First time in a while. Game day's going to be there. Christian Kirk will be there. Yeah, I'll mention something about Ben Herbstreit towards the end of the show here. I know that's been something that's been developing in the world of college football. If you've not been paying attention, by the way, I'll address that, give my thoughts on it towards the end of the show. But this game, according to FanDuel, again, this is not me giving you betting advice. Any of these predictions here that we do, if you're new here, especially now that we're officially live on YouTube now, I don't give out betting advice. I don't do that. I don't bet myself. I just use the FanDuel number as a generalization of where Vegas thinks and how it folds into my point of view and whatnot. It just, again, if you want to bet, if you're able to, if it's in your state, go ahead and do it. I'm not going to stop you. No one, like the police aren't going to stop you. The government won't stop you if it's illegal in your area. But it's personally, it's a personal decision, and I'm not going to force you to. I'm not going to discourage, say no against it either. So just use caution if you are. But yeah, according to FanDuel, Bama minus 2.5, which is interesting. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, Bama, talent-wise, definitely a lot better. You have Jalen Milroe versus Garrett Nussmeier, LSU's defense versus that Bama defense. And one of the things that is interesting to watch, the real key battle here, in my opinion, I mean, firstly, it's obviously going to be physicality, right? Bama's O-line versus LSU's D-line, LSU's O-line versus Bama's D-line. That's always been the case in these games. And even though the coaches and the players will change, the main hardest rivalry has always been LSU's defensive line, O-line versus Bama's defensive line, offensive line. It's always been the key matchup there. Has always been, mostly. Then it also goes into the quarterbacks as well with, Jalen Milroe, and is he finally healthy now? And that they had a bye week. Thankfully for Bama, LSU as well. Both teams always have a bye historically before this game, so they're rested. And will they be fully healthy? Especially with Jalen Milroe. That's a big question for me, because for Bama to win this game, if they do win this game, and they are a favorite to win, according to Vegas, how would this work? How would this happen? Well, the blueprint, if you haven't noticed, for those of you who are not college-ball sickos or watch different shows, one of the things I picked on, and I will give credit where credit is due, I believe this was Bud Elliott on Cover 3. The formula that Bama could use here is the Texas A&M formula. When they put in Marcel Reed, when Connor Wegman was looking pretty horrific. Just use that method. Use a running quarterback, because clearly LSU did not account for that, and they looked terrific. I mean, like Marcel Reed only threw 2 passes, and if you think that's like a wrong stat or whatever, that's a mistake. No, go look it up on the score box. It's literally 2 for 2, I believe, which is insane. Like, you would imagine like a triple option team would have those type of numbers. No, that's modern Texas A&M football, I guess. Which is, hey, look, they won the game, so at this point, it's not really relevant. But for Bama, that's the method. That's sort of the formula here, running quarterback. Because I think Jalen Milroe, having a week off and having to get himself healthy, because again, much like a lot of other folks, I personally don't believe he's been healthy since that first half of that Georgia game. I really don't. I think he's been banged up for better half than 2.5 months, which is not ideal. Just frankly, I said frankly again, don't like repeating myself like that, but realistically, you've wanted Jalen Milroe to be healthy towards the end of the regular season, right? Make sure he's healthy enough for the postseason. If you're going to make a postseason run, yada, yada, yada. It's games like this that you want him to be fully 100% ready to go, no holds barred. You're, full steam ahead. So hopefully that's the case. And if it is the case, then fully expect Kalen DeBoer and that brain trust there on the offensive side to probably use Jalen Milroe's legs. They will be a factor. I fully expect it to be a factor in this game. Can the LSU secondary stop Bama's receivers? Because they're still pretty good. Right? Ron Williams, elite player, the best freshman. Him, Jeremiah Smith still feels like they're battling each other for who's the best receiver in the country, which is strange to say that a freshman wide receiver is the best player in the country. What's up with that, right? But can LSU secondary do that? Can they stop them? Because I think with Bama, obviously they're going to run the ball, but I also believe they're going to test that. They're going to want to test that secondary, because I think LSU's secondary is to be had. Now, they've not been tested properly for the most part. Ole Miss, sort of. They were banged up at receiver at the time they played them. Texas A&M didn't even try to throw the football, and even when they did with Connor Wegman, it looked horrific. But Bama has the capability to do that. They have the capability to pop you when it's there, because they can lull you to sleep too. Like Kalen DeBoer, everyone thinks he's an air raid guy, throw it over the yard. He's not really. He's a more run the football, running quarterback of Jalen Milroe and Justice Haynes and that crew there. It's really going to come down to that physicality standpoint. Can LSU can they be physical? And can those corners also challenge those receivers if Bama sees it reasonable to throw the ball on them? Because I think this LSU secondary can be had on. I just don't know if Bama is going to try to do it or think they can. Because again, if you look at that formula for Texas A&M or from Texas A&M, Marcel Reed, that's the formula. Though I do question, is that really duplicable? Because that was, and if you firmly believe LSU and the players after the game saying that they were not, prepared for Texas A&M to roll it out, who's to say that Blake Baker and those guys over there, Bo Davis and that whole staff over there, and Kevin Peoples, the defensive line coach, well, not underrated because everyone's been talking about him, but really good assistant coach there on that defensive brain trust there for Blake Baker. Have they prepared properly for Milroe? Because they didn't, supposedly they didn't for Marcel Reed. They've had basically 2 weeks to prepare for Milroe. So at least as an LSU fan, I feel somewhat confident enough that you'll be able to handle Milroe to a certain extent in that run game. But man, those wide receivers are a challenge, man. Especially Ryan Williams. And it doesn't matter, even in the games they've lost, he's looked somewhat good. That's for a freshman too. But most of the time he's been elite. I mean, there's a reason why EA Sports updated their rosters and whatnot and their overalls, and he's like a 90 overall now. So if the great folks in Orlando and EA Sports believe that Ryan Williams is 90 overall freshman wide receiver and College Bowl 25, then he must be really good in real life, yeah. So if for LSU, I mean, man, if the game is what I think it is, and it's a close game, much like it has been every single year, it feels like, can Garrett Nussmeier get it done? Can both of these quarterbacks get it done? Because I don't know if Milroe can. Now, I guess Milroe can do it. He has done it. Can Nussmeier do it? Because he's not been in that position to win you games before. At least he doesn't have a big resume of doing it. Milroe sort of has. Nussmeier, I mean, yeah, slow down, Josh. The LSU game, I mean, the LSU USC game, yeah, there's a chance there, but Ole Miss, probably the only game so far this year that he's shown the ability to win the game for LSU when they needed him to. Can he do it here? Can he do it in a pretty high stakes game? I don't know. I know Jalen Milroe can because he's done it before. So I have a bigger resume with him versus what I have with Garrett Nussmeier, which is a very small, like 1-page sample size, not like a 30-page sample size. So I'll say all that to say, CFB Nerds, by the way, I'll have a link, I think, when I edit the live stream. You can watch it back. I'll try to put their link into their website, which is the model I use, by the way. It's publicly out there, too. All you need to do is log in through Gmail or whatever email address you have to get full access there. You have unlimited access, but I use their model just to see what their line would be, because that's all it is, like a power. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to explain. It's determining who would be favored over who on a neutral field. So it kind of helps out a little bit, engaging with their model thinks. Anyway, I punched in the numbers at LSU versus Bama. Their model, CFB Nerds, has Bama minus 2.1. So around a 2-point favorite. So kind of in the same wavelength as wavelength. Well, it's easy enough for me to say. Wavelength as the FanDuel number, which is 2.5, by the way, if you've forgotten. So their model has Bama minus 2.1, which is around 2 points. Again, it comes down to that. Who would I choose to win the game if you're to do that exercise, which is, I think that's where it's going to really come down to. And can Jalen Milroe and them give LSU fits like Texas A&M did? And I think Jalen Milroe is clearly a better player than Marcel Reed, at least as of right now. Because of that, because of how much I trust Kalen DeBoer in these big games, especially in a big rivalry game like this one, and the fact they've had a week off and who knows, maybe they're scaling a little bit, maybe they're in takeoff mode. I think Bama's going to win the game, and I think they cover. Don't feel too comfortable about that. Don't really feel like very confident in that, but yeah, I think Bama's going to win. But could see either scenario here, right? Could see a LSU win, close, Bama win, close. I think Bama wins, though cover is it's close. It's not like I'm picking Bama to win by 14. But yeah, I think Bama wins. I think they cover. I just trust Dylan Milroe just a little bit more. Not to mention, I think LSU can be had in the secondary. And if LSU's going to stop the Bama run offense and they can stop that quarterback run game, which I firmly believe Kalen DeBoer and company will try to implement, I feel fairly good about Bama being able to throw the ball in LSU, especially with those receivers. It's not just Ryan Williams, too, like Jeremy Bernard, those guys, or Kobe Prentice, guys who are also been there for a while, who have been in the program for a while. I trust those guys more than the LSU offense, the way it's currently structured. So, and also, again, look, as much as I've been saying that LSU's defense has been improving, like this is a different animal, which you're facing with Milroe and company. Georgia Ole Miss. This is the 3:30 game, I believe. Double check. Yep, 3:30 on ABC. Sean McDonald, Ray McElroy, Mike McGrath will be there as well. So that crew will be back there. Or is it their first time? I think it is their first time being there. No, it's not. I don't know. I'll have to double check on that. I believe it's their second time, actually. I think they were there for the Kentucky game. So, yeah, it is their second time being back. Anyway, so they'll be there. It's a 3:30 game on ABC. This one has a ton of stuff writing on it. For both teams. I mean, Ole Miss is a team that's in takeoff mode a little bit. I'll just go ahead and say it. They kind of are, at least in my opinion. Georgia, kind of stagnant. Though, like I've been mentioning, they have it in them to have a game or a performance like they did against Texas. Though you can question if that's really like a duplicable performance. I kind of think it could be there. I mean, it's always going to be there, right? With the talent there of Georgia. But can they do it? Can they do it? Like, is it something that they can display there? Because I don't know if they really can do it in this game. Because I think with Ole Miss, they're a team that is sort of in takeoff mode. Kind of late in the year, but they're in takeoff mode. They struggled a little bit in conference when they first got in. The Kentucky loss and the LSU game, which was a game they were supposed to lose, by the way. So there's no shame in losing that game. But the Kentucky loss threw a wrench in their plans, if you will, for the postseason, if you're going to look at it that way. I kind of think the momentum situation here, like who's more motivated to win this game, has to go to Ole Miss. Like, there's no doubt in my mind they are motivated, right? It's a backs against the wall. If you're going to be one of those teams that are getting in those stupid auto bid crap, whatever it is for the playoff, which is kind of, it's not auto bid, but I don't know. Anyway, I'll save my thoughts for just ignore it after watching this live or on the podcast feed there. I don't know what I just said, but I'm sure you guys probably didn't either. But if they want to be in the playoff, if they want to sneak in, one of those games where they have to win, or I'm not to say, I guess have to win, but it's a game you would at least you have to have on your resume. At least I believe so. If I'm staying corrected, that the playoff committee will be valuing resume in their initial rankings. More on that in just a second. But for motivation-wise, clearly Ole Miss, again, you've lost 2 games. You really got to be careful here to not win this one. It's also an opportunity and revenge factor, too, for Lane Kiffin and company. Because you saw what happened last year when they went to Athens. Wasn't that very competitive? It kind of was for about 10 minutes, but not really towards the end there, and Georgia pulled away. That, to me, is a big factor. Even if you take away the playoff stuff, that, to me, is a factor in itself, that whole revenge factor. And I think it's very, very important for Ole Miss. Because, again, you saw what happened last year, and they got embarrassed when they were in a similar situation where they're, I believe, a one-loss team, right? Came into Athens, and they just got embarrassed. Just wasn't good. Very boring game there towards the end. And I think that is a factor here. Quarterback situation for Georgia, again, is Carson Beck going to turn the ball over? If that's the case, then Ole Miss is probably going to win this game. Now, again, turnovers are really hard to predict because you can't predict them. So, again, I don't have like Dr. Strange-level powers. I can't go and see in the future and say, oh, yeah, Georgia turned the ball over twice. Ole Miss is going to win the football game. I don't know for sure that's going to happen. If it does happen, there's a chance Ole Miss does win the game. It's not a guarantee, though. Just remember that. It's not a guarantee. But definitely is something, unfortunately, for Georgia, you're going to have to consider, right? It is Carson Beck, and he cannot turn the ball over. I know I'm using a NFL team as an example, but as a Bucs fan, kind of the same thing with Baker Mayfield the past few weeks. It's like, man, it's almost like you have to worry about him turning the ball over every single week with Baker. He didn't do it last night, but anyway. Can they have a clean game? That's all I'm asking for Georgia. Can they have a clean game? Can their defense get crucial stops? I think they can do it. They have the talent there to do it. Can they actually execute it and actually do what I'm proposing here? We saw it versus Texas when they did have the ability, or did show the ability to get crucial stops. Is that something you can do this week? Can you actually do it again? I don't know. Ole Miss definitely provides a different type of challenge here. They have really good wide receivers. I think some of them are getting healthy. I mean, you saw if you watched Arkansas game like I did, I mean, you saw Ole Miss kind of go in there and just wipe the floor clean with Arkansas's blood. It sounds kind of dramatic, but kind of what it was. Very disappointed Arkansas, by the way. Just disappointed. Thought that'd be a more competitive game there, but oh well. I was wrong on that one, wrong on a lot of stuff last week, but hopefully I'm not wrong here. I thought about this game a lot, clearly. Going back and forth again. Which QB do I trust right now? Do I trust Carson Beck? Do I trust Jackson Dart? As play callers too. This is where it's also going to be made. This game will be one. Glenn Schumann, defensive coordinator, versus Lane Kiffin as the main play caller there. Ole Miss's defense versus Mike Bobo, the offensive coordinator. That's another matchup there too to look at. Kirby Nunhill brain trust there versus Lane Kiffin, probably the one everyone's going to be focused on. But the Ole Miss defense versus Mike Bobo, that's going to be a factor there. Or at least one of the big factors, clearly. Because again, he's to the best coaching staffs in the country. I don't care what people say. I don't care what people think of Lane Kiffin. Like, these are two. Like Pete Golding's had a pretty good season so far. Trey Weiss Jr. off of the OC. Even though Lane Kiffin's the main play caller, still that's a very good staff over there, and those are people I have a lot of respect for. The narrative of the loser for this game, clearly it's going to be one-sided, right? If Georgia loses, okay, whatever. Like, it's wake me up when the playoff starts, I guess. If you're Georgia, I'm assuming that's the narrative going to be there for Georgia. But for Ole Miss, if you lose this game, you already have 2 losses in 3. Does a team with your resume, if the playoff committee values resume like I think they should, then Ole Miss is not in the playoff. Because if they lose this game, you've lost 2 games that you needed to, or at least we'll split one of them, right? Because at least to build a resume, or at least have a good, decent enough resume to say, hey, we defeated a top 10 team. We have the SEC sticker, so woohoo! Or Ole Miss loses the game, so you lost 2 resume building games, and you also have the Kentucky loss, which Kentucky looks like they're quitting. Which is, by the way, a topic I'm probably going to go over on, probably Thursday, maybe. Topic about Mark Stoops and his future there. It doesn't feel good over there. It doesn't feel good. And you guys know me too. I'm very conservative about, not going the other direction, but conservative about lashing out on head coaches or saying they should be fired. But anyway, Ole Miss's resume is going to hurt if they lose these games. Again, you'll have a win versus a team, maybe South Carolina, which is the only hope for Ole Miss. They'll probably be the biggest South Carolina fans if they lose this game and they went out the rest of the way, and so South Carolina. At least you can say, hey, we went to Williams-Brice Stadium and we did something that Texas A&M couldn't do and win. So that's your one saving grace there, I guess, if you're Ole Miss. But the rhetoric for Lane Kiffin, if they lose this game, is going to be similar to James Franklin. Very similar. A lot of toxicity. I'm sure there's probably articles being written over the past couple weeks about Lane Kiffin and his future at Ole Miss. Is he taking the Florida job? Is there going to be NFL rumors? Which is, like I said a few weeks ago, I think there will be some, because there's one job opened this past week in the NFL, and there's a lot more that will probably open. So don't be surprised if you hear Lane Kiffin's name being attached to any of them. That's all I'm saying. I haven't heard from reliable sources on that. That's just my own thinking on that. So because there's so much pressure at Ole Miss to win this game, there's a lot of, this is sort of what you've built your season to, right? With the transfer portal, recruiting, and, nutrition and strength and conditioning and fall camp and spring practice is all, if you're Ole Miss, this is what you've been building towards. For Georgia, you're more to them, if you're a Georgia fan, you're looking at Ole Miss as a speed bump. But for Ole Miss, you can't look that way. You have to look at this as like a David versus Goliath. You're David being Ole Miss, Goliath, Georgia. You have to really amp up the energy here. Because it's a very high stakes situation here, a very, very high stress scenario here for Ole Miss. Because again, if you lose, any hopes if you have for the postseason are going to dwindle very fast, maybe. So again, I've thought about this for a lot. Thought about this game a lot. The CFP Nerds Model, for example, here as we kind of in this prediction, they have actually Ole Miss a 2.8 favorite, minus 2.8 according to their model. So they think Ole Miss is the favorite here. And I kind of agree. I think this is a big spot for Lane Kiffin. This is a big spot for Ole Miss. It's the revenge factor from last year. I do believe that's another factor here for taking away the playoff stuff. I know it's not a night game, but it's a very interesting atmosphere there with Ole Miss. Those fans care. Those fans cheer like heck, right? And unfortunately, they won't get a night game. Unfortunately, If you haven't noticed that, they don't have a night game. In fact, the only thing I don't think they've had a night game at home at all this year. They haven't actually. No, they haven't. I just realized that they have not. So, and this is the only opportunity, right, to get a big marquee win. I think they do it. I'm going to take Ole Miss to win. I think they cover. Nothing against Georgia either. But I think for Ole Miss, it's literally their time to shine. So, one more game here on this slate. May do some more on Thursday. We'll see. Clemson, Virginia Tech. Could have been a much bigger game here for ACC implications, but as per usual, not just Clemson losing, but Virginia Tech. Of course, they lose a couple games, and now this, of course, is not relevant. I'm sure a lot of folks probably were excited about this game 2 weeks ago, but not anymore. But this is interesting enough for vibes-wise. Very interesting. So, you have Virginia Tech, you have Clemson. Virginia Tech and Brent Pry looking for a major splash here, a major win. If the upset were to happen. By the way, according to FanDuel, Clemson minus 6.5, according to FanDuel. So it's a big spread there for Virginia Tech. Granted, it's at home for them. This is a good home environment, especially for big games. Now, is this a big game necessarily? Well, no, it's not, because it's very clearly this game has lost any less it may have had both these teams continuing to win and took advantage of their schedules, right? Clemson, very manageable schedule, though. Yes, their schedule was going to get a lot harder. At least this is going to be a hard stretch for them. Started with Louisville, and of course they lost that game, and Virginia Tech and Pittsburgh. This is a big game for them, for Clemson. If they still want any hope, if you will, of making any meaningful postseason run. We'll see about that. But it's at home for Virginia Tech. And Brent Pry and them are looking for a huge win. They haven't had one yet. A signature win. Could have had one against Miami. Didn't. I mean, it kind of is what it is. But you will hear if you take advantage of it. Again, I know they've lost to Syracuse. Again, this game could have meant so much more. But unfortunately, it's not. Doesn't mean you still can't take advantage of it, right? You see what Clemson's happening with Clemson. The negativity, the toxicity with Dabo Swinney and company after what happened last week, and the fans leaving early, and just the weird vibes over there, like I mentioned earlier. If you're Virginia Tech and you're Brent Pry, sort of kind of like that, Houston-Kansas State game. Again, I didn't talk about last week. Rightfully, Josh Payton warned us about it on Friday Night Lines. For some reason, like you mentioned on the live stream now on Instagram, that you, for some reason, forgot about it. Forgot about that game was even happening. You can have a very similar situation here to what you had this past weekend with Kansas State, Houston, where you have a staff there that's looking for their first big win. Willie Fritz and company got theirs. Can Virginia Tech and Brent Pry get theirs? We'll see. The matchups here, clearly Kyron Jones and that offense versus the Clemson defense, which has not been that much of an issue. But again, you saw it happen last week, and it looks jarring, yes. But then again, is that a trend? Or is that just a blip on the radar and then Clemson gets back off the mat, and then here they go. They absolutely handle Virginia Tech in Lane Stadium. Could potentially happen. That's definitely a scenario to consider, given what we have seen of Clemson with their schedule that they've had. And I guess Virginia Tech sort of fits that mold of, an average ACC team. But then again, it's on the road too. So that's why I'm very worried about this game for Clemson. Spoiler alert. Offensively for Clemson, was not good last week. Is that a trend, or is that something that gets rectified and you see a totally different Clemson energized Clemson team? Kay Klumnik and Garrett Riley's marriage there gets back on track, if you will, lack of a better term. So look, there's a lot of paths here for Clemson to win here, right? You took advantage of what happened last week. You bottled up the toxicity and just say, it's just us now. We have the rest of our schedule. We can make things right. We can bottle this up. We can make a big generative. I don't know if you're going to go to Charlotte, no less, but at least finish strong, right? Just finish strong. Beat the teams you're supposed to. You're a 6.5 win favorite. But then again, there's the other side here with Virginia Tech. Massive opportunity for Brent Pry Company. Always wanted to go to Virginia Tech, by the way, for a game. I've always wanted to go there. I've always looked at that atmosphere there. If you watched games in the past, whether it's Frank Beamer or Justin Fuente, towards the beginning, that was good. Towards the end, though, not so much. Haven't had Lane Stadium energized, again, unfortunately, because they lost to Syracuse. This game, at least conference-wise, at least within the standings, has lost luster, doesn't mean that team still cannot take advantage of it. It's Lane Stadium at night, or I think it's at night. Let me go double check here before I'm wrong on that. That'll be a factor. It's 3:30, so that's not a night game, but still, though, it's an afternoon game. It's on the road, hostile environment. You guys, if anyone from that PR department there or their marketing department there is listening to this, hopefully you are, take advantage of it. It's Lane Stadium. It's 3:30. Massive, massive opportunity here for you guys to get a massive win. Brent Pryce, first big win as a head coach. This is it. Clemson's down. You have a chance to pounce on it. And you know what? I think you do. I think you win the game outright. I think Clemson's kind of going in a strange direction. But then again, there's also the opportunity for them to bottle this and use it as motivation, at least the last week. But I don't like the dynamics there right now for Clemson. I feel really weird about it. I strangely feel good about Virginia Tech here. Don't feel too confident, but I think Virginia Tech wins. I think they cover. So, how about that? If they win that game, Virginia Tech will be bowl eligible, I believe. Yeah, bowl eligible, and interesting scenario they're developing there for Clemson. If they do lose this game like I think they will. I'm going to take a quick drink of water here. Been going for, how long have we been going for here? About an hour. So we're going to wrap it up a little bit, talk about playoff, then I'll talk about Bucs and Chiefs, and then we will wrap it up here. So again, get some water here. Podcast feed's not going out, nor is the live stream. No issue here. Just getting some water. All right, should be ready to go here for the next 15 minutes or so. College football playoff rankings debuting tonight on that stupid show ESPN does. I know I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like I highly doubt no one's going to tune in, especially with tonight the election going on. It's like no one, grant you, I'd much rather talk about college football playoff rankings in the election, but truthfully, most of America probably not paying attention to the playoff rankings, and they probably wouldn't be anyway. Though the sickos, or at least the folks who are not general public college football fans, probably will tune in. We'll look at the rankings on Twitter or whatever on the Wikipedia page, or whoever's going to update that page. Because there's a page, though, by the way, and this sounds really college football sicko mode here. But there's a page, by the way, for the rankings on Wikipedia. So there's another place you can look at if any brave soul who has the ability to look at the actual rankings and copy them over. Anyway, so ESPN's show will be on tonight. They'll be on there. I'm sure some of you will tune in. I will not. I will look at them through my phone or through Twitter or whatever on the wiki page, like I just mentioned. I wondered too, with this being the first edition of the 12-team playoff rankings, again, it's a whole new committee, whole new chairman now. The old system's over with. It's a brand new system. It's like literally school's in session, right? Using a term there or a phrase there from Josh Pate. So I wonder a couple things I'm wondering, or at least not really a couple of things, but just one thing I am wondering is how do they handle teams in terms of resume? That's what I'm curious about, because we have teams here that are pretty good, or at least teams that are undefeated, right? You have your Indianas of the world. Washington State, by the way, is a sneaky 7-1. So those are two teams I'm really focused on if I were interested in, right? Or at least I'm interested in Washington State and Indiana, because most of the teams holistically don't have that good enough resumes. So I'm interested to see if Washington State's going to be ranked or included in their ranking list of 25 teams, and will Indiana be there? Where will Indiana be? Will they be top 10, top 15? If they honor strength of schedule, their resume, Virginia, and I not Virginia Tech, Indiana probably in that 15-ish, top 12 range, so not top 10-ish. At least I don't think so. Again, we don't know how they evaluate, right? So that's a big mystery. So it's one of those teams specifically. Those two teams, if you're non-big boys, those are the two teams I'm focused on. Big boy teams, those like the upper tier, Big Ten, upper tier, SEC. How do those resumes get handled, right? Want to see where Ole Miss is. Is Ole Miss top 15? Are they lower? Because if they're lower, now in the power ratings world, and this is where I agree with Josh Pate, Ole Miss is still around a top 10 team, because you would not favor Ole Miss against teams below them. Like if you're to list out teams 1 through 25 in a power ratings world, use the computer and the math formulations, Ole Miss is still going to be favored over like BYU and Kansas State and whatnot. So they will be favored over those teams. They still are. I fully assure you that Josh Pate's little JP poll when it comes out again, it's not a ranking system, it's a rating system. It's just a list of teams that'll be favored over each other on a neutral field. That Ole Miss is still going to be top 10. They lose this weekend, this time next week, still the same case. And the power ratings world in general. Rankings, however, is a little bit different because, again, if you're going resume-based, I don't know if Ole Miss is top 12 team yet. Top 15, maybe, because the South Carolina win's looking a lot better now. And South Carolina, by the way, if I were doing a ranking teams for the playoff committee, if I was on that committee, South Carolina's a top 25 team. I just don't care if it's the brand you don't like or the fact that it's, you're not gritty enough or whatnot, or it was just one game. Don't care. Their resume's been pretty good so far. And I think they should deserve to be ranked. They're a good team. Very good team. I mean, heck, they almost beat your precious LSUs of the world, and they almost beat your precious Bamas of the world. So that to me is a pretty good resume, and that to me would garner South Carolina to be in the rankings. It probably won't be, unfortunately, but I think they should. Interested to see what the conversation is about those teams if they're left out. I'm also wondering, too, about some of these other teams like Bama and LSU and whatnot, but realistically, for me, for these rankings, again, I don't really care about these that much. Again, it's a stupid show, and I know they're doing it just for, purposes, right? Or, well, Josh Pate's world, it's by, but for me, it's purposes. I know, Josh, if you're listening to that, I'm sorry. Don't always agree with you on a lot of things, and that's one of them. You're putting I at the end of everything and it's calling it plural. I disagree with that fully. Mostly, though, I do agree with chalices versus chali. That sounds a lot better. Purposes and by, it's like, I don't know. Don't really fully agree with that. But anyway, I know for TV stuff and those purposes, I know ESPN does their show, but let's be real. It's stupid. You still watch it, but it's dumb because it's like the last rankings do matter. But I will say, as the inaugural ratings or rankings, not ratings, not power. It's not power ratings. It's our actual rankings for the inaugural rankings. This kind of does matter because it is interesting to see what the committee does value here, or at least what they might be able to value come Selection Sunday. So that's the only reason why I will be focused on them a little bit, or at least pay attention to it more than I have in the past. But realistically, like next week, who cares? We'll watch the show. Probably just see the rankings on the Wikipedia page and whoever updates them, or probably on Twitter first. Like if Brett McMurphy puts them out, which he usually does, and kudos to him for doing that. But have no interest in watching Reese Davis and those guys talk about rankings every single week up until the last one. So again, this week, a little bit different because it is inaugural rankings, and there is some interest in seeing what this new committee acts, but who knows? Maybe it could be the same crap as usual, or they actually abide by a strength of schedule at the beginning and not put out some BS. Oh man, look, it looks very similar to the AP poll. That's weird. Hopefully not. But anyway, I'm not gonna go on the whole tangent there. I really could, but I'm not keeping you guys here for too much longer because we've been on the air for over an hour, and I gotta get out of here at some point. I'm gonna wrap it up here again for the college ball, mostly the college ball stuff. No Marvel or Star Wars news here right now. But if you're here for the college ball stuff, that's over with. I'm going to talk about Buccaneers Chiefs here very briefly. But if you're not a college ball fan, have a good rest of your Tuesday. Enjoy your Wednesday. I'll see you guys on Thursday. But if you are a NFL fan or a Bucs fan, or maybe if you are a Chiefs fan, yesterday's game did not go the way I hoped it would. I did pick the Chiefs to win, so I was correct on that. I kind of did wish the Bucs to win. It was a fun game, man. It really was. It was a fun game, back and forth. Baker, by the way, no interceptions and no turnovers for the Buccaneers. I think at all, really. If I'm not mistaken, Chiefs did have some turnovers. And man, it's so tough playing these really good quarterbacks. And it was like this with Brady. If you're an opponent if you were the opposing fan base facing either Brady's Patriots or Brady's Buccaneers, feels the exact same way playing Mahomes, right? Even as bad as he's been, I don't think he's been that bad, truthfully, or at least personally. Like, I know everyone's been shitting on him or not been shitting on him. Though some folks personally to me who have been shitting on him, saying he's had a bad year. Okay, he's still a good player. Like, just because he's had a bad couple of weeks, like, I don't know, like, he's still a very good player. And we saw it on display last night. When it matters most, they show up. The Chiefs show up, and Yes, I know their undefeated record's not gonna last forever. At some point, that team's gonna clip them. Maybe it's the Bills, maybe it's the Broncos down the road. But as a Buccaneers fan, I respect what they do up there. The Chiefs, Andy Reid's good head coach, legendary head coach, one of the best offensive minds in all of football, including college and NFL, both. Just incredible. And just an incredible quarterback. Showed up again last night when it matters most. I know everyone, all the Buccaneers fans, and look, I kind of understand where you guys are coming from. I'm one of you. I get it when Baker chose, I don't even know, he chose tails and didn't choose heads, and that's been sort of like that curse of, well, you don't choose heads, you're kind of screwed. And they didn't, again, like they did a couple weeks ago on Thursday night. I mean, it doesn't really matter that much because, again, it's like, get a stop, and they didn't. And again, you're playing against a legendary quarterback who's really, really good and has made a lot of teams choosing wrongly in the coin toss and making them pay for it. But I will say this: while it doesn't affect them realistically, because again, it's not an NFC team that comes this weekend with 49ers, though I do feel a little bit better about that game now than I did maybe weeks ago. But still, it's in terms of resume-wise for the playoff stuff, you're losing to the AFC team. Yeah, it doesn't hurt you in the NFC side, but for resume-wise, it would have been nice to get a win there. You didn't. You showed up pretty well. You didn't quit. So that's good. And that's one thing, too, I want to say to my fellow Buccaneers fans. The team isn't quitting. At least they didn't quit last night. They haven't been quitting in all these games they've lost. Does that happen? Does that start this week? That is kind of a concern for me. I will touch more on that or I'll discuss more about that on Thursday, but I don't think they are quitting. At least I don't think they are. Still think there's a lot of fight there. They've got a very banged up San Francisco team, still dangerous. They have bye coming up. You can get a nice win going to the bye. The rest of your schedule after the bye is very manageable. Though that New York game still scares me a little bit. But yeah, fun game to watch. As a Bucs fan, it was tough to see that final overtime game. It was a good game. Good game. Good presentation, by the way, from ABC and the ESPN side with Joe and Troy being there. And a lot of folks don't like them. I kind of like them. I've never met them before. Probably won't ever meet them, but liked their presentation. I thought their overall ESPN ABC presentation was good. The atmosphere is pretty good. Just sucks, It sucks to see a overtime game not go the way of the team you're cheering for, but there's a lot for Tampa to still play for. It's not over yet. I mean, you haven't heard it from Todd Bowles and Baker. There's still a lot of season left. You can still maybe try to get a wild card spot, though. The AFC West is outside of even including the 49ers too. There's a lot of teams up for that will probably end up getting playoff berths that are wild card teams out there. So, and that's it for. Oh, by the way, I wasn't mentioning. Almost forgot this. Ben Herbstreit, Kirk Herbstreit's dog. Very sad news happened last night. So, Ben, if you guys, for those of you who don't know, he has chemo. The dog. It's not a real person. He's a dog. He is still living. The living thing, right? We still care about him because he's a dog, and who doesn't love dogs? So Kirk last night, he sort of addressed why Ben wasn't present on either game day or at the Georgia-Florida game this weekend. He's had cancer for about, I think, a year now or two, and he's had chemo. I know he wasn't around for a few games this year already, so he's been missing a little bit. He was last seen at the Texas A&M game. Wasn't there again this week for game day or the game him and Chris were at, but he's not doing well. He can't walk, apparently, according to Kirk's statement on Twitter. He's not doing too well. They've seen different vets, veterinary doctors and whatnot. And when I saw that last night, when we'd be lying to you, it made me a little sad seeing that. And hopefully Ben's doing all right. And Kirk, I'm thinking about you and your family. I know Ben's been around for a long time, and he's become a big celebrity now with beginning last year, and that sucks. And hopefully Ben feels better. Hopefully he will be ready to go for when you guys go to Tiger Stadium. But, man, that's going to be tough. And keeping you guys in my thoughts, and hopefully Ben feels a lot better. And like I said, hopefully he'll be with you and Chris in the booth in Tiger Stadium for LSU Bama. So I'm not choking up or anything. It's just the voice is starting to go away. But yeah, I saw that last night on Kirk's on the Twitter timeline during halftime of the Bucs game, and I'd be lying to you if that made me a little teary-eyed there. reading that off and whatnot. But hopefully Ben feels a lot better going forward and he will recover a little bit. But it's been tough for Kirk and his family, and trust me, now I don't have dogs, but I can only imagine what they're feeling right now. So, and that's the stream right now. That's it for the show. We'll be back on Thursday. Do this again. Hopefully this worked out. Double checking to see if the stream is on. It still is. So yeah, we've been going for well over an hour. Again, if you're new here to the YouTube channel, subscribe if you're here. Twitter, follow, podcast feed, same thing. Subscribe. So that's it for me. That's gonna be the show. Again, election tonight. If you haven't voted yet, I guess you still have time. I guess when at least in the live stream, as we're live right now, it's 3:47 Eastern. So I guess you still have time. But if you're listening to this on the playback or on the podcast feed, not really relevant. But yeah. So enjoy your election night. Enjoy your playoff 12-team playoff committee rankings debut. If you're watching the ESPN show, again, look, no hate towards ESPN, but personally, I don't really care much for the show. But I'll probably listen to the clips on YouTube and whatnot of whoever the new chairman is for the playoff or whoever the spokesperson is now, because it's not Boo Corrigan, probably. At least I don't think it is. But anyway, I will be paying attention to the rankings when they come out. I will see them being plastered over Twitter. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your election night, playoff night. By the way, too, action's back this week, back tonight. So if you want a nice little healthy distraction from what's going on tonight, then go watch some action. I think I haven't checked who's playing, but it is starting up because it's first week of November. So that's it for the stream. Have a good rest of your night or good rest of your afternoon. I know now the time change, it may as well be night because the sun's starting to set now. So anyway, enjoy your rest of your Tuesday. Enjoy your Wednesday. See you guys on